Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My dear brothers and sisters, welcome to Dome Podcast. And today I have an extraordinary guest. He is the youngest guest on my show. My guest today is brother Muhammad Abu Bakr Hameed. Assalamu alaikum, brother Muhammad. How
Walaikum
are you?
salam. How are you?
Do you prefer me calling you Muhammad Abu Bakr or Abu Bakr?
I just go with Abu Bakr,
Abu
honestly.
Bakr, Abu Bakr. So how are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm very excited to have you today on the show because you're the youngest ever guest to be on my show. And this is a privilege because my show is not only for the older people, but it's for everybody.
Yeah.
I think most of our viewers would like to know you better. So tell us a little bit about your childhood. Where were you born and raised?
All right. As you said, I'm Muhammad Bakr Hameed. I'm Pakistani, so I was born in Pakistan in the capital city of Islamabad.
Yes.
But the interesting thing is, I was there for maybe 6 months at max. Then I moved directly to Saudi Arabia.
Okay, so your childhood, your early childhood was in Saudi Arabia.
Pretty much my entire childhood was in Saudi Arabia.
MashaAllah.
I spent about 16 years living in Saudi Arabia. Like I've seen it change from when it was all you'd see is men everywhere to now women driving. We have concerts and etc. And then within the next 2 years, so from 16 to 18. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually 18. I'm
Yes.
now here in Oman, Muscat.
MashaAllah. So when did you arrive in Oman? When did you come to Oman?
I think it was around August of 2023, just
2023.
before the
Okay.
school year started.
Okay. And how did you find the transition from Saudi
No,
Arabia to Oman? Do you find it very different or it's
it,
almost similar?
there's a very big difference. I cannot deny that, right?
Yeah.
But honestly, my first impressions were fantastic because I come into the airport, I'm greeted by Omanis. They're speaking fluent English, Arabic, a little bit of Urdu, and I'm like, this is Oman? Like, Omanis are speaking English? Like, because I remember growing up in Saudi, most of the times, the
Yes.
average Saudi man couldn't communicate in English. He
Yes.
would try to speak Arabic, and mainly that. Oftentimes, you'd see they would make an effort, but that's, I would say, a lot with the younger people.
Yes.
But in Oman, people were super kind, speaking English, and I'm like, whoa, this is really cool.
Was it difficult for you to move to Oman after 16 years, leaving your friends and the environment there in Saudi Arabia?
So the funny thing is, I was actually excited. I am like, finally, we're moving somewhere. And I'm like, it's my last year of school. I can move. What do I have to lose? Because now, all my friends I have on some sort of social media platform,
Yes.
WhatsApp, Instagram, where I'm just always texting or calling them. So I was excited, honestly. It was a chance to meet a new change, kind of adapt to a new environment because, better now to change where you are because I'm eventually going to change right now also because
Yes.
inshallah I'll be going to university.
Inshallah, inshallah. So I want to go a little bit back to your childhood when you started the early years of school in Saudi Arabia. Uh, as you know, you were a Pakistani, and then you went to an international school, and then you have the local community as well. Didn't this bring a little bit of confusion about identity? Did you start speaking Urdu at an early stage,
You,
or
there's actually a funny story about speaking.
yes,
So I went to a multinational school. It's closed down now. That's a funny story in itself because they refused to join the embassy because
yes,
education has to follow one embassy, right?
yes,
And they said, I'm not going to follow. They closed down, and that was the end of it. But initially, what happened was in my childhood, my parents would speak Urdu at home, and at
mm-hmm.
school they would speak English, and I wouldn't speak at all. Like, my parents were worried. They took me to doctors, and they're like, "Abu Bakr's not speaking. Why is he not speaking?" The doctors are like, "Okay, he has the capability to speak. Everything is normal. He just, has to."
At what age?
I think this was maybe when I was 4,
Four.
5.
Okay,
I
until
spoke really late, like, and then my parents made the decision to speak in English only because they taught it at school, and so everyone at school speaks English. So if they speak English at home, it'll be easier. And then ever since then, I've been speaking English, and I've been unable to keep my mouth shut since then.
so your Urdu must be very perfect.
Oh God, no, God, no. My Urdu has been a roller coaster because since I only spoke English, in Saudi, for the large part of time, women couldn't drive, right?
Yes.
And my dad couldn't drop me at school most of the time, so we had a driver. Our driver was Pakistani. He was Pathan, which is kind of like an ethnicity,
One of the tribes there.
one of the main ethnicities, right?
Okay.
And he couldn't speak English at all. So I was forced to speak Urdu with him and him with me. And I learned my Urdu from him. So whenever you hear when any sort of Pakistani, Bangladesh, Indian person hears me speak Urdu, I have a very strong Pathan accent. And that is just like the things like, oh,
But
what
I
are you
think
doing?
it was very entertaining for the driver to hear you speak the broken Urdu.
I mean, the funny thing was, my parents say this all the time, was he also spoke in a broken Urdu also. His Urdu wasn't also proper. So he spoke in broken Urdu. Also spoke in broken Urdu, and we were just like best mates. Like, hey, we can understand each other.
Because the Pathan have their own language.
Yeah, so the Pathan, they have a language called Pashto. So
Yes.
in Pakistan, we have provinces, right? For example, we have Sindh, they speak Sindhi. Pathans, they speak Pashto. Punjab, Punjabi, and etc. So the only word I actually know from Pathan is Lala,
What does it mean?
big brother.
A big brother.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the only word I know in Pathan, or Pashto, sorry, not Pathan, Pashto. But yeah, so he didn't really speak Urdu itself. So it was just like, how do we communicate?
So and then you went to school and you find students from across the globe.
Yeah.
How was that experience studying with students who look different, they sound different, and they have their own cultures? Did it shape your identity, or you always had this identity that, you know what, I'm Pakistani and
Oh
it's
God,
gonna be
no,
that
God,
way?
no. Definitely, it shaped my identity because I remember. So my class was, I was in a school called multinational school, right? I had maybe 15, 16 plus different countries in my class, like
Mm.
different nationalities. Like we had Austrians, we had people from South Africa, Australia, Canada, Pakistan, India, Saudis. It was like literally all over. And being in that class, it really gave me a broader perspective of things. Like, sure, I didn't feel as if it influenced me personally, but as I grew up, I'm like, okay, because I grew up in such an environment, I was able to understand, okay, I grew up with this. This is something not weird. Like, for example, when I travel to Malaysia, they say things in a certain way, right? Or say, speak English in a certain accent. I'm like, okay, I'm used to this because someone in my childhood spoke like this.
Yes.
And it really made me a lot more, I guess, approachable, or rather, give me a broader vision on the entire world. And that's what I would say my childhood really inflected. But as a Pakistani, when you have all these awesome nationalities and you're like Pakistan, you're sort of like, embarrassed, like, oh, I'm Pakistani. Why I'm the only Pakistani? These are like Europeans, these are Americans, these are Australians. What am I doing here?
But the good thing about kids, they don't see these boundaries.
Yeah, I definitely
And
didn't see
you
it.
see only friends. You see that we're gonna have fun together.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I mean, I think the nationality, or the identity crisis happened probably when I began middle school. So like when I was in grade 6 or 7, that is when we started having groups formed. Like you had social circles.
Yes.
Like this guy will have these friends, these girls will have these friends,
Yes.
and you're like, okay, I can't fit with them, I can't fit them, and you're like, what is something wrong with my identity? Am I meant to be like them? So as before middle school, it was perfectly fine. Everyone got along, and it was like a relatively smooth ride.
What was it like when you went back for holidays to Pakistan? Did you cope with your cousins, extended family, the local community, the market, especially with the rusty Urdu that you
Uh-huh.
speak?
I mean, honestly speaking, the only people I say it to this day, the only people I really speak Urdu with are my grandparents. Everyone else in my family speaks English.
Okay.
I do make the intent to speak Urdu with them, but I just kind of go back to English. I'm like, okay, you know what? This is a bit too hard. I'm a bit too lazy. So let me go back to English. But going to Pakistan, we used to go once or twice every year, like
Mm.
for both Eids. We have Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr.
Yes.
So I'd go every time, particularly for those two to Pakistan, meet the family. And honestly speaking, it was probably some of the best memories I've ever had. And I think that's also something that I really valued because I wasn't there so often or for such long periods of time. Those small moments that were just like, really precious. And I think it really helps that my grandfather, I was his first grandson, right?
Yes.
My grandfather, my mom's father, right? I was his first grandson, and he was like completely babied me and stuff like that. So I got extra special treatment from him, and I
Alhamdulillah.
was like, till this day, like he was calling me actually on the way here. I was like
MashaAllah.
asking, he's like asking, Abu Bakr, so what's the plan? Abu Bakr, what's the plan? Abu Bakr, how are you doing? And like, so it's just like he really helped let me feel belonged in the entire community.
And when you moved to Oman, was the environment different in terms of school, or you immediately coped with the new school, new friends,
Okay,
the system?
so coping, I would say it's a 50-50 because look, I'm a very naturally extroverted person, right? My dad will disagree. He's like, you can't talk to someone, but naturally, I'm a very extroverted person. Like, I came in, and this is a story which my classmate said. The first day to school, I came wearing red pants and a white shirt. And they're like, who comes to school in red pants? I made a bold impression, like, you look, I'm gonna do something different and you're gonna know me. And because of that, I started mingling. I got to understand people. Like, hey, I'm Ubaka, how are you? I'm from Pakistan. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. Like, who on earth are you? It was like some foreign guy had come in despite being Pakistani. But I managed to cope in perfectly, like with the students, with the teachers. In fact, one of the teachers, he often praises me for being what one of his favorite students or best students in his class.
Yeah.
So I coped very well. But in terms of the educational lifestyle, it was a vast difference. I have to give that, because well, that would be affected also by the educational curriculum I took.
Yes.
So around the world, you have the SATs. You also have SATs, APs. You have the Omani course or the Saudi course. So I took the British course.
Yes.
Sorry, British course, which was the A levels,
Yes.
and that to the Cambridge board. So a lot of schools do the Edexcel, but in Saudi, I joined a school which reopened as my first school, essentially, right? The school I told you got shut down.
Yes.
They reopened a few years again under the British embassy, and they taught the Cambridge board. And I was like, okay, I like the school. I performed really well. They
Yes.
had the good they were really good at um teaching. They had the right facilities. So I'm gonna go there. And I come to Oman and I'm like, okay, this is completely different. And I'm like, I managed to cope. Like, Alhamdulillah, I did well for the most part. But like, I felt as if I were to compare this to Riyadh, I wasn't as involved or as settled in compared to those other schools.
Do you find any challenges in school or in the society, whether it's in Saudi Arabia or in Oman?
So comparatively in Oman, I just have two main problems. Actually, three
Yes.
problems.
Yes.
The first problem is the Arabic, the accent. All right, you guys have like the sh,
Sha.
and you pronounce it ch.
كيف حالش?
Yeah, your pronunciation of Arabic is oftentimes very different. And I'm like, I grew up in Saudi Arabia. That's Arabic. What
Yeah.
are you guys saying? I'm like, you have Assalamu alaikum, and like you have those. They accentuate certain, ayn and
Yes.
seen and sword. And
Yes.
I'm like, here, I'm like, huh? Number two, you know, it's not much of a commerce market. Like I go, there's like maybe two or three malls right next to each other, and
Yes.
that's pretty much it. And I'm like, okay,
So Saudi Arabia is much busy
it's a
and
lot
more
more.
people,
There's a lot more. I mean,
more traffic.
I moved from Riyadh to Muscat, right? And I
Yes.
say this comparison: the number of people living in Riyadh is more than the entire country of Oman.
Subhanallah.
And in Oman, and particularly Muscat, like what I if I give an example, the car market here is tiny, like tiny compared to that what is available in Riyadh alone. And if I want to buy something, it's like, okay, there's very limited shops or they don't have it. And I think the third problem is honestly restaurants.
Hmm.
I think so. My family, we enjoy going once a week, something like that, as a all together to restaurant, right? Try
Yes.
something new. In Riyadh, the way was essentially every week something new was opening, because it was like a proper kind of restaurant business. People open
And
one.
there is demand because of the
There's
population.
proper demand,
I
and
think now they are maybe 30 million, the population of Saudi Arabia,
probably, but also the
approximately.
thing is, majority of Saudis also youngsters. I remember when I was
Yes.
growing up, they said like what 60-70% is like under 20. So they're young people who are working, they have disposable income, restaurants, and they're trying to find the best value for money. I'm
Yes.
not saying there's like fancy restaurants or stuff like that, but like, for example, if you go for burger places, right? If you want some sort of fancy burger, like just a burger dip from McDonald's or Burger King.
Yes.
Not saying that you should buy McDonald's or Burger King, but like I could probably count on my hand how many there are
Yeah.
in Muscat alone.
Yes.
In Riyadh, it's like, okay, there's this, there's
The options are more.
it's significantly different.
Yeah. Now that you graduated from high school and you're ready to continue your life for further studies, and maybe very soon, inshallah, you'll be selected in any of the universities in the world. What does it feel like leaving home or leaving your parents and being independent?
Honestly, personally, I'm excited. Personally, I'm super
I
excited.
hope your parents don't hear this.
No, they, for the most part, I believe they understand my view, at least, because I'm excited. I'm
Yes.
like, it's an adventure, right?
Yes.
It's like I'm moving out. Okay, let me explore the world on my own. Let me see what life has to give. But on the other side, I'm like, okay, I've spent so long with my parents. What's gonna happen? Alhamdulillah, my dad's a very healthy man, but he's getting older every day.
Yes.
And from Islamic point of view, the eldest son, or generally the son, is the one who takes care of the family, right?
Yes.
Like, to the point, in Islam, it says, if there's a jihad coming and your parents are old, it's said to go take care of your parents instead of going for jihad, right?
Yes.
That's a big responsibility. That, like, it says not to go for jihad, but in fact take care of your parents.
Yes.
I'm going for university and it's gonna be far away from them. I'm like, who's gonna take care of my parents? And I have a sibling, right?
Yes.
But she's significantly smaller.
Yes.
I don't think I can really rely on her for the things I can do. Like, my mom would come like, hey, Abu Bakr, can you go to the grocery store and do this? Or, hey, Abu Bakr, can you go get XYZ from these stores? I go tell my sister, Fatma, can you hurry up? 5 minutes later, Fatima, where are you? What? I'm coming. So there's like, this big difference.
And what are your expectations when you go to the West, for example, for studies? What do you expect? Is it gonna be an easy ride, or
a
certain
very
things?
wise person who's sitting in front of me said not to have any expectations for going into the West. Honestly, though, like, alhamdulillah, I've been a very well-versed traveler. Like, that's one benefit of actually leaving Pakistan, living in Saudi, is that my parents love to travel. So I've traveled a lot since I've been a kid.
So what are some of the interesting places that you visited?
So, like, the places I remember particularly is, like, for example, Canada, the US. I've gone to the UK. I've gone to Czech Republic, Switzerland,
MashaAllah.
France.
So you have an idea about
I have a very
these
strong
places,
idea of the West. Like, the thing I just have an expectation is about, for example, is we all know the West is super liberal.
Yes.
I'm just trying to see how liberal are they, like, because they say you can be XYZ. You can be a penguin today and we'll let you be. But if I say I'm a Muslim and I want to practice my religion, will they let me?
It won't be okay.
Because, like, they support you. They support me being a penguin, but will they say, okay, will they support me for being a Muslim wanting to go to the mosque?
Yeah. Let me ask you: is it important to identify as a Muslim? Why
100%.
can't you be undercover and just be a foreign student? Why should you identify as a Muslim?
I mean, honestly speaking, I think I believe in two views. Number one is that when you identify as a Muslim, it kind of strengthens your own faith.
Yeah.
It's like you have the champion's mentality, which is like, I am a champion,
Yes.
and then you become a champion. So if I believe I am a Muslim, I'm a strong Muslim, you're a strong Muslim. And then also you're less likely to go into harm. Because let's be honest, in the West, what's known for universities? A lot of times is parties,
Yes.
some sort of alcohol, occasionally narcotics.
Yes.
If as a Muslim, those are all prohibited on me. So I'm already naturally going to be healthier. I'm naturally going to live a healthier life.
But let me put it this way. For example, you're going there for the first year, you might be asked to live in the dorm where it's mixed with other genders. You might be the only Muslim in the university, and because you don't party, you don't drink, and you don't do the activities that they do, you might be outcast. Isn't this worrying you?
Whenever I've been asked this, I always remember a hadith by the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which is that, Islam came as a strange religion, it
Yes.
returned back to being a strange religion.
Yeah.
So if you know that you're strong in your faith, you can accept the burdens. Like, you can be like, okay, they don't like me. That's not going to change who I am, right?
Yes.
I can go outside in public and be like, I'm Pakistani, I'm Abu Bakr, I'm a Muslim.
Yeah.
I can yell that out. You may not like me, but how will that affect me, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you just have to have that confirmation and belief that this is who I am. You can't do anything to change that.
Have you thought about the idea of weighing the cons and pros about whether you can study in the East or the West, where the East is closer to our culture and faith, versus the West that is very liberal
Yeah.
and
I,
maybe much more expensive.
I have done that, honestly.
Yeah.
So, in terms of culture, I grew up in a very multicultural background, right? Sure, I have my culture from my country and my family and and some sort of religion, I guess. Because I feel like religion has some sort of culture. Like, when you're Muslim, like the culture is like, on Eid, you dress up, right? I would
Yes.
say that's a cultural thing. Um, the best benefit of the West is there is no set standard of culture. So
Yes.
you can adopt it easily. Whereas you go to the East, there is a culture, right? For example, you go to the US, I can wear a thobe, nothing's gonna happen. I come here and I wear a kurta, people are gonna be like, no, the thing is a thobe. You wear
Yes.
thobe here. So that's like there is a kind of a harder or a greater barrier of entry to culture in the East. But for the most part, East is I hands down say the East is better compared to the West, right? In terms of probably education, it's the same.
What do you think uh, are the reasons that keep young people in your age in this modern day away from faith? What is the deal breaker when it comes to faith and religion? You find a lot of young people going astray and they don't want to associate anything with religion.
I want to say to a certain part, it's enforcement
Okay.
and the exaggeration of desires.
What do you mean by enforcement?
For example, you have people who are interested in Islam, right?
Yeah.
But then they come out and they say, okay, I'm going to be in Islam. You'll have parents, for example, it's a very normal thing in Pakistan. Your parents would force you to pray the sunnahs as if they're fard.
Yeah.
And then when you're forced and you don't have the natural love, or like you're forced to do things and you don't understand, it slightly pushes you away. You're like, for example, if I force you every day, you have to write, I am Hatim Abdissalaam, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna like writing for a long time, for a few period of time. I'm forcing you to do it, so you're gonna get naturally pushed away. And the second thing is the exaggeration of desires. In the modern day world, what do we see? Your people are saying, okay, be free, do it now, or you only have one life. So there's like in Islam, unfortunately, in Islam, a lot of things, almost everything is halal. There's a very small number of things which are haram, right?
Yes.
But because the haram, which often are some sort of aspect of influences our desires, for example, lust, it's all very exaggerated. So you're
On
like,
social media, on
exactly.
billboards,
And then
and
they're like,
everywhere else.
either if they embrace Islam, they're like, all of this that's open, I have to close that off. And they're like, I don't know if I can do that. Or I like eating, but they use alcohol or pork or some sort of other rare animal. And you're like, I don't know if I can close that. So I feel as if these are the two main principles which either prevent people from coming in or just kind of push people further away from Islam.
You chose to take time before you go off to university, inshallah, to understand your faith better. What made you take this decision?
Well, honestly speaking, it's hands down mostly to my parents.
Yes.
I naturally have been curious about faith and I have studied faith myself, right?
Yes.
But my parents said, honestly speaking, of Bakr, there's a very high chance you might end up going to the West. Let's be
Mm.
real. The West, probably one of the biggest markets in the world, very easy to enter, very easy to leave. And is it? And in the West, people are going to be attacking you, your religion, and who you are. You're pretty confident about who you are and who you are as a person, but what about your religion? So to become more confident in religion, you need to understand it a bit more. You have to understand, okay, why am I following a certain religion, or why am I
Yeah.
doing XYZ? For example, why am I what we call donating to the poor?
Yes.
Someone could ask me like, why do you donate to the poor? And I can say, well, it's a right of the poor. God has blessed me with some sort of wealth. Now it is their right on me to help them.
Yes.
And if you're not like a strong person or has at least some sort of moral compass or religion, you're not going to be able to answer that. So to study religion, you kind of not only have a strong a deeper sense of what we call understanding of religion, but you also kind of strengthen your character, I would say, a bit. Because as you become more religious, you become a righteous person and your character goes along.
What are some of the interesting aspects that you learned and you think they will be applicable in the following years where you are abroad?
Actually, I have to think about this
Mhm.
because there's a bunch of things which I've been which I have asked about, and they're of importance. For example, the differentiation between when you have purposely missed a prayer and when you have missed a prayer that's not on purpose,
Yes.
right? For example, you're in a taxi,
Mhm.
you're driving from, let's say, a 5 hour drive. You can't really stop in the middle to pray, and sure, are you required to pray qadha, which is the makeup prayer, or do you just go back, stop, and pray as normal and then continue your day?
Yeah.
So that was another aspect. Or another aspect is how do I gel in with the community, or how do I allow myself, being a Muslim, make sure that I'm not influenced? For example, let's say I'm in a Western country, right?
Yes.
How can I make sure nothing happens to me? Simple. I just make a simple dua like, "Oh Allah, give me strength. I'm trying to stay strong on your faith.
Yeah.
Please grant me strength and allow me to stay stronger on your faith and have a firmer belief." So it's just like very small and simple things I kind of learned to help really.
Now, Bakr, the attack is not only on Muslims, the attack is also on masculinity and how a person can be a man. What do you think is the role of a man, or who is a real man, and the aspect of, you know, being responsible?
Masculinity as itself. So, I mean, let's break it down because
Okay.
I learned in a very interesting lesson yesterday.
Okay.
Actually, what does it mean to be a man? We
Yes.
have three pillars:
Yes.
to lead, to protect, and provide.
Yeah.
That is what it means to be a true man.
What does it mean? Because in the Western perspective, you know, the idea of feminism and equality, and you know, even women can lead, and so on. So when we say a man has to lead, what does it mean? Is it
Yeah,
in a position of superiority above women, or what does it actually mean?
this is the beauty of when you believe religion, you just understand this is the beauty of how God created us as
Yes.
men. We're not as emotional as women, right? And we're not. So we have you often see on movies or stuff like that. Men can make that heartless decision. For example, generals,
Yes.
they can send men there knowing that they could die. It won't affect them or cloud their judgment.
Yes.
We have the way we've been created in such a way naturally suits our responsibilities, and to say that a woman can't take over that, maybe they may be able to perform to somewhat level but never be able to perform to the same level of a man. For example, a man goes and hunts, right?
Yes.
We naturally have our adrenaline naturally increases because we're like, okay, I'm either gonna be successful or I'm going to die here. And
Yes.
that's essentially it. If when I'm hunting and you
And we're
have
excited to do it.
I'm excited. Like, I remember you telling me a story earlier. You go to a gun range and you shoot. You're excited. You're like, give me another magazine. I want to shoot more. We
Yes.
get excited with violence, which I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing in it of itself, because another form of beauty.
But if you think about it, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create us in such a way that we're excited for hunting, you know, to hunt for our dinner, if we have a slight friction of fear inside, we will not go and hunt,
I was
because definitely what is out there, the lions, the tigers, the elephant, everything is bigger than us, much stronger than us. There is no chance for us to survive with them.
you know,
But today you see people, if you see the tribes in Africa, in Kenya, the Maasais, they bare feet walk across the Sahara Desert, and the lions, when the moment they see these men, they just run
exactly.
away.
Auzu billah, if we didn't have that instinct, we'd all be vegetarians. That'd be a very sad thing. Like,
Yeah.
I remember reading an article which is, a man has the natural desire for meat. Like, it's in us to have that meat. And I would say, what's a greater example of a man than Hazrat Hamza?
Yes.
Hamza radiallahu anhu.
Yes.
He hunted lions. He was a strong warrior. He wasn't afraid. Like, he came in. in like what was it? The days of Jahiliyyah in Mecca, and said, if you attacked my nephew, Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you have to deal with me.
You have to deal with
Hunted
me.
lions, big strong man. Like that's a man. He's able to take. He managed to lead. Which I said, he managed to lead. He took charge. You
Yes.
want to deal with him? You have to deal with me. He protected his nephew. Says, deal with me, and he just provides. He provided some sort of support for the religion.
For the religion,
And
yes.
it's like that's man. Like any proper man has these three principles.
Now, when it comes to providing, there are different means of, securing an income. How would I be a good provider?
Well, this number one simple thing is you have to make sure it's halal.
Okay.
You can never expect any sort
So
of
it's not only about money and earn it in any way.
there will never be any sort of barakah from anything that's haram.
Yes.
And I remember I was listening to some sheikhs talking about this, which was you have the couples in one day, boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yes.
They say, "Oh, we're together. We intend on getting married." Now, how do you expect something halal and beneficial come from something haram?
Yes.
Right? Or it's like, I'm gambling, but don't worry, my winnings are going to go for charity.
Yeah. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work
doesn't
like that.
work,
It
yeah.
simply doesn't work. And the same way you provide, you have to make sure it's halal. So there's some sort of barakah in it, which will be beneficial for you and your income. And then along with just providing, it's not just about the kind of monetary sense. It's not just money. You also have to be able to provide, like, for example, be there, provide yourself emotionally. You have to be there to physically be able to provide, like, in a way, it comes also to the category of protection, but you have to be able to provide your body, right?
Yes.
Because your body, in a way, is there to protect, but it can't protect unless you provide yourself ready, right?
Yes.
And this is the way I just kind of think about it.
And the third element, which is protecting, how can you protect others?
The two simple ways is physically and emotionally.
Oh,
If I see my family, inshallah, I'll have one day.
inshallah. Inshallah.
If they ever get attacked, it's my job, again, to take charge, which is taking lead, go protect them physically, whether it's to push the mugger away or punch him or something like that,
Yeah.
and then provide support to my family.
Yeah.
Or whether, for example, let's say it's my wife, and she has some sort of a problem, right? And she needs some sort of emotion. Like she says, someone is hurting me. I have to be able to protect her emotions, saying, okay, don't listen to them. I'm providing emotional support. In a way, it's protection. It's very, astounding how all three of these are interconnected.
As you mentioned, my wife, why do you think young people today delay the project of getting married to like late 20s, 30s? It's not like how it used to be where our parents, our grandparents, they got married in their late teens. So, do you agree with this? Do you think young people now are delaying marriage?
I do agree that people are delaying marriage. There's no doubt about that.
Does it have to do with the difficulty in selection, or what does it have to
That
do
has
with?
an influence too. Just like how we have, failing masculinity, a failing understanding of what a real man is.
Yes,
Same case applies to femininity.
yes,
What does it mean to be a real woman or practicing woman? Because back then in I think it's in the Quran, which is you can marry from Ahlul Kitab, the
yes,
people of the book. People you can marry from them, but
yes.
now over a period of time, the books have changed. They don't really follow it, and honestly, since I feel as if people getting married late is for a variety of reasons. Because look, one thing is you get married at the social norm, right? Obviously, it's emphasized and it's a good thing to get married young, but because of the way the world is, right? It
Do you think that the parents are the ones who are restricting the kids to get married early, or is it from the kids themselves?
I
Uh,
would say it's both ways. I would say it's
both
both
ways.
ways because as I said, modern day and age, it really accentuates your desires.
Mm.
So you see, for example, lust, like you can watch pornography or you could eat whatever you want. You don't mature yourself. You don't have that control of we call self-respect or self-control.
Yes.
So you're not mature enough to get married. You're not capable of restraining yourself, being able to protect your soul, your mind, your ears. And at the same time, I want to say, I don't want to blame the parents, but at the same time, you don't really prep your children for that either.
Yes.
Because you prep them for education, you prep them for school, pass the exams, but like I remember listening to this podcast. The guy said, "Okay, you've passed school. I passed my school. I had no idea how to do my taxes. I had no idea how to fix my car. I had no idea how to fix my plumbing in my house. I had no idea."
So there are other priorities in life that should have been part of the package
Yeah,
of your
like,
learning
yeah, because
journey.
look, I feel as if there are two main responsibilities for marriage. One is you have to be mature enough, like mentally, and you have to be capable. As in, like, you're capable enough to provide. You're capable enough to think logically as a man. Because I can't give the perspective of a woman because I'm not a woman.
Yeah.
I'm not that liberal. But like, as a man, you have to be mature enough. Like, okay, I know what to do. I know what my responsibilities are, and you have to be capable of enforcing them, or rather, acting upon those responsibilities.
Now, yeah, but as you will be traveling to go and study abroad, how do you identify that a colleague is a marriage material or someone that you would want to spend the rest of your life with, or it's just a crush?
Like,
Because this happens.
this
Yeah,
happens.
students go abroad and then they call their parents and say, you know what, I like someone from Australia and or the United States, and I think she's my soulmate. And then you find the clash between the parents and the son.
The second you call your parents, whether they're gonna say, "Oh, Booker, do you want me to come and give you like a, you want me to wax some common sense?" I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's the case with all parents. Like, I know friends who are looking for marriage and they call their parents and like, "Do you want me to come and like wax some sense in your head?" But I think you've
Sorry to cut you off. I remember in year 2000 when my our parents were sending me and my brother abroad for further studies. We were going to Malaysia, and my dad, on one side, he said to us, "Please study hard, and this will be for your future. And we are investing in this education, so please do not waste our money." On the other side, my mother said, "Listen, I don't care if you pass or fail. Don't come back with wives and kids." Yeah, that's my only request. So you see the concerns
yeah.
on both parties
Obviously,
are totally
obviously, and like
different. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I probably would have told you the quote at one point in time. The quote. It takes a man 7 seconds to have, I won't say hormonal love, or rather an infatuation. Within 7 seconds, I see a girl like, oh, I
I
think
want
she's the one.
I want to spend the rest of
I
my
spend the
life with
rest of
it.
my
Yeah,
life,
yeah.
and honestly, I follow these two simple steps. Honestly, whenever such a case happens to me, it's just like, well, number one, I just make up to pray 2 extra rakats, and it's like, okay, Ya Allah, I don't know. I understand how I feel about this woman, right? If she is generally good for me, then make it easy. If not, simply just remove her from my mind and heart and grant me ease. Another step is just understanding the self control and just seeing how they act and comparing them to what you want, right? Because look,
Yes.
when you're choosing a partner, I feel as if it's more than just for yourself, it's also for your kids, because it's the responsibility of parents to raise righteous kids, right? Now, if I end up choosing a partner who is not righteous, someone who is, I don't want to say jahiliya, but like in that sort of sense, and we have kids, and my kids end up going become jahiliya and stuff like that, now I'm held accountable for that.
Yeah. Now,
And
yeah. And one more thing I wanted to say is, once you find a spouse uh, there in the West, the urge to stay there and start the family
become stronger.
becomes stronger, and it becomes you're a person who did hijrah to the non-Muslim lands, and you settle there, and then after a few years you find the consequences of settling there in terms of your kids, the education system, the culture, the identity, Islam. What do you think of that? Do you think this is something that you should be concerned
You
of?
are spot on. I call it the reverse hijrah, honestly. Yeah, but like, the hijrah is, I'm gonna leave the United States and move to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, and spend or even Malaysia
Mm,
with my family in a Muslim country. But you're saying, you know what? I live in a place where there's not that much fitna. Obviously, there's fitna everywhere, but in a Muslim country, it's relatively lower. I'm gonna leave a place of low fitna and go straight into the heart of fitna and raise my family right there.
I think
And
there are two phases. The first generation that went to the West, they were colonized and they were forced to go there and work in the
the
factories.
ones who are forced, I
Yeah,
don't blame them,
yeah.
because I
And then
believe
the second generation, uh, the ones that are, born in the Muslim lands, but they wanted to seek a living, and they thought that there's the future, the land of
I mean,
opportunities, and so on. So they made hijrah and went there. But now the third generation that is there, born and raised, they realize that, you know what, this is not the place for us. And now it's reverse hijrah.
exactly.
They are coming back to the Muslim lands because they no longer can tolerate uh, the idea of being a minority and not being able to practice your faith. Remember, I spoke to you about one of my cousins who is in the UK, and the social system there, they took his 4 kids,
I know.
and they said that you're no longer a fit parent, and we're going to take the kids and send them to adoption.
That's the worst part about it. Like,
You
you
will
don't
never
have any
find
say.
this in the Muslim world, that kids who have parents will be sent for adoption, unless in extreme cases that the parents are really, really not fit, then they will be given to another relatives, but not to a total stranger to raise them, especially if the culture is different, the religion is different. We don't want our kids to be raised as non-Muslims. And we've seen in some parts of Europe where we had the Syrian immigrants, and they snatch their kids away from these family. And these families feel that, you know what, it's better for us if we all died in Syria instead of coming to this foreign land to start a new page, and suddenly our kids are gone.
Exactly. And at one point, guess I'll ask you a simple question. Are you telling me that people are willing to leave a center where their peace, they can have religion, just to earn more when they know they're gonna die?
I think it's a deception, really, Abu Bakr. We have a few people from the Middle East who went as a political asylum, or they decided that living in the West is far more better. But if you think about it, there is no place like home.
Exactly.
You know, you won't starve in your country. You won't, you won't be deprived. And no matter how your situation is bad, you're still at home.
Exactly.
You have your dignity as a citizen in that Muslim land. And the most important thing that people fail to understand is the freedom to practice your faith. Abu Bakr, when was the last time you applied officially to go and pray in one of the mosques here?
Oh God, never.
You just,
I
you
just walked
know,
in.
you just start your car and go and pray,
Yeah.
right? Did anyone ever come and question you, why do we see you 5 times a day going to a particular mosque?
Oh God, no.
What are you cooking? Or your mom or sister or wife is harassed in the streets for wearing a headscarf.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, but the thing is, the media played a huge role in brainwashing young people, telling them that that is the life. I give you an example. If you look at Las Vegas, what do we see on the screen about the
It's
lights, the
all
glamour, the
and
money, the
casinos.
parties? The highest rate of homeless people are in Las Vegas. So just imagine, is that the life that you want? Alhamdulillah, in the Middle East, we don't have homeless people. We do have people who are less privileged, but you never find someone sleeping on the streets. So we don't think about these things. We only think about what we see on the screen, and we rush into decisions that will change our lives forever.
This goes back to my point, which I said, in the modern day and age, it accentuates your desires. Your desire is, I want to do whatever I want,
Yeah,
wherever I want,
yeah,
with whoever I want. The West, having played a heavy impact on this, you go to Instagram, you look at reels or posts, for example, you'll see a guy going 200 miles in a 60-mile zone. No,
yeah,
he's doing it on social media. They even think, why can't I do it? Or you'll see a guy and a girl sitting together in a car in a parking lot, no one's watching. You're like, they're doing it, why can't I do it? And then the West just kind of built up this idea, we're the land of freedom. America, the land of freedom.
yeah.
And that's really, I want to say, heavily affected even brainwashed us to a certain point. Now, saying that, I have to say there are some benefits of the West. I cannot say they're completely bad. For example, we Muslims are the best at healthcare, right? We develop medicine, maths, but unfortunately, after a while, we became stagnant. For example, case an example, the Ottoman Caliphate or
Yes.
Empire, first ones to use guns and stuff like that. Fantastic. But towards World War II, they just stopped developing their guns. Like it didn't come as efficient as the Americans or the Brits or their ships. They didn't really develop them. The British created the East India Trading Company, those massive galleons, rows and rows of cannons. We just became that okay, this is it. Now we're gonna relax. So the West incentivized has incentivized development and developed further compared to the Muslims, which unfortunately is a sad reality. And we kind of lost our edge. But, I feel as if once the Muslims take that back, and we say, okay, the West has really, for example, healthcare.
Yes.
Technically speaking, you will find the best doctors in the US compared to the Middle East, right?
Yes.
But the healthcare system is horrible. Over here, the healthcare system is good, but you don't have that many good doctors. Obviously, they're fantastic doctors. I'm not denying that. But some accident happens. Where do they fly them?
Yeah.
To the
To the
US,
West.
to the
Yes.
UK, somewhere in Europe. So it's just like,
This is a tax that we pay for having the relaxed environment. Because look at the countries that have sanctions. They developed a lot because of the sanction. Because now they're left alone. There is no imports or export. There's no experts coming from other countries, no product. They had to work hard to develop their own weapons, their own food, their own technology, and now they are superseding all these Western countries. So when you are very relaxed, everything is easy, everything is provided, you don't tend as a human being to strive. When do you strive and innovate? Is when you're struggling. So somehow we need to go back to the idea of struggling in knowledge, trying to come up with solutions for
you
humanity.
you just reminded me. So there's a fantastic series by Sheikh Omar Suleiman, right? On
Yes,
Yaqeen Institute about the fists. And the fists are the forerunners of Islam, right?
yes,
And he just really talks about how each different Sahabi and other companion were a first forerunner, right? The first in doing this. In Islam, we have always been encouraged race or hasten to goodness, hasten to good. We just decided, okay, I've done good. Let me slow down. Let me slow down. Like, sure, we have people, lots of money, charities, institutions,
yeah,
but like that's helping other people. You also have to help yourself. You also help your community.
yeah,
If let's say I earn 1 million every year, right? And I say I'm gonna put it all into a charity institution somewhere in Africa.
yes,
That's gonna help the people of Africa, but what about the people here?
yeah,
We're not gonna develop anything. We're gonna stay the same, and everyone's gonna like, it's okay, we're fine. And that's kind of the way I've seen that we as Muslims kind of slowed down because we're not really force trying to become the first. Like, when was the last time you heard a Muslim saying, you know what, I want to be the smartest person? If I ask you who's the smartest scientist, they'll say maybe it's Einstein or Newton or something like that. The last time I heard a Muslim name
centuries ago.
centuries ago, who is the best mathematician modern day? People will be like someone from Oxford or Harvard.
Yeah.
No one's gonna know.
And you know the thing about this is we now encourage artists more than scholars.
Very much so.
Yeah, because you have people who, win awards in singing or musicians or whatever type of art, and you see the entire country welcoming them with flowers and people, sponsoring them and donating to their achievement, while at the same time you have students who come top in the world in innovation and invention and so on, but nobody knows about them, nobody interviews them, nobody even talks about them. And this is where we go wrong. The Western world, they made sure anyone who is intelligent and smart and creative, we want you. They give them the citizenship, and you're part of our nation today.
Exactly.
Yeah. if you look at the history of the Western civilization, most of the names are not from the same place. They are people who came as immigrants from different parts of the world. They are smart and intelligent, but they found an incubator for them to develop that talent.
Exactly.
And on the other hand, in the Muslim world, the more talented you are, unfortunately, the more you are opposed, and the more obstacles are there in your journey.
That's what, I remember talking to my dad. The West has this concept called brain drainage or brain suckage, which is that you're smart from Pakistan, I'll take you. You're smart from Saudi Arabia, I'll take you. You're smart, I'll take you. Now, once the people are really smart, they obviously have to, as a man, you have to provide and protect.
Yes.
Now, in the local country, you don't recognize. You have to go somewhere to earn, right?
Yeah.
The West gives you an opportunity to earn. You're gonna go to the West to protect and provide. Now, what happens to the country left behind?
It dies.
You don't have the smart people.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
They all leave.
I remember particularly, it was in Saudi Arabia. I think it was in one of our courses. It was a research course. They used to give scholarships, right? If you're the top grade student, you're a doctor, you're an engineer, and then they'll put imam towards the lower ones.
If you don't do well at school,
Yeah,
you go and
I believe that was the
become an
concept.
imam.
That was the concept proposed. I don't know if it was implied or used, but that's what we read somewhere, and it was like, that's shocking. And then we thought about really, and we're like, okay, that makes some sense because look, we're the smartest people. The richest Arabs, where are they?
They're all abroad.
Exactly. Look at London. London's owned by half of the Qatar royal family. They all live right opposite Buckingham Palace. They must be smart to own all of that land.
Yeah.
It's not like just because people often blame the Gulf and the GCC because of oil, right? Sure, the West helped, but like they had the intuition to, okay, I'm gonna use this oil, I'm gonna sell it, I'm gonna develop the country, I'm gonna do this. And those who are here, Mabruk for them, they're still here, but a lot of them decide, you know what, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna go somewhere else and use this talent somewhere else.
And sometimes the options are limited, you know. You lose your talent, you lose your skill, or you lose your country. So they do hijrah, they go and seek opportunities. And even when they are successful in the West and they want to come back and start developing their countries, they're still opposed and they still have challenges and obstacles. But I think maybe our generation did not do a very good job in terms of changing this reality. But the role is with your generation to do something about it, because your generation is more open to the world. You're far more developed in terms of technology, and you're open to new ideas.
That may be true, but I disagree with the idea it's our generation versus your generation. Like, look, as a man, it's one person take lead. It doesn't matter if I am the one leading or if you're the one leading.
Yeah.
Someone has to take charge. Someone says, okay, now we're gonna go and do this. For example, one thing I love about Oman, they took charge and said, we're not making skyscrapers. Someone took the action, said that's not gonna happen.
Yes.
Someone in Saudi Arabia said, we're gonna make Aramco, we're gonna become the biggest oil company in the world, and we're gonna make the country profitable.
Yes.
Someone in UAE said, we're gonna make Dubai the global commercial hub of the world.
Yes.
Someone said Singapore is going to become the strongest country in the world, the most efficient country in the world, right? Yeah. Someone has a charge. It doesn't matter if it's I'm young or old. And to a certain point in view, I feel as if I believe in the concept, you know, we have to believe in the concept of shura, right?
Yes.
We have to take the advice of the elders. The elders know more. I'm not saying that you're an elder, by the way. I'm just saying
you're looking at me.
Actually, the previous generation have experienced more. They know more, and they're capable of more. Like, if I go out in public, if me and you go out in public, I can guarantee you'll probably be able to achieve more than I could. Like, if I say, okay, we need to find 3 taxis and tell them to race one another, or tell 3 taxis take us here, here, and here, you'll probably be able to do it because you've had experience with dealing with people more. You understand what people think more. The previous generation really groomed the next generation, and they understand what we're thinking. Like, our generation, we don't know what we want. And that's the problem. Like, you know, which is a problem with the West, hyper liberalism. I don't know if I want to be a man. I don't know if I want to be a woman. I don't know if I want to be a penguin. Like, what do I want to be? And they said, go ahead, be whatever you want. We'll accept you. The previous generation is like, no, you're a man, you're a boy. I mean, you're a man or you're a girl.
Yeah.
No
And
distinction.
end of story.
End of story.
End of story.
You gave us all these options, and you were like, "What do I do?" And that's actually one thing I want to say is also part comes to education, which I say is a benefit and a kind of a negative, which is that let's be honest, in my parents' generation and probably your generation, it was like you can become an engineer, you can become a doctor,
A lawyer.
a lawyer,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
about it.
probably it, right?
Yeah.
Now I come here, I'm like, okay, I could become an engineer. What engineer do I want? I can become in mechatronics. I can become electrical, civil, chemical, petroleum. I'm like, what is this? Oh, you don't want to be engineering? Okay, go ahead. We have English. You can do English literature, English speaking, public speaking, okay,
Translation.
comparative. Exactly. And you're like, what do I do with all of this? Like, I'm confused. And then we study this, we put our effort and time, and like, what do I do with this now? Back then, you had limited options, but those options are applicable everywhere. Like you'll find it's a very known case. People go study, they can't find a job because they don't know why they studied something or what was the benefit of studying that or how it'll help them in the future.
Yeah. Yesterday it was very funny, and I went to one of my friend's house. He's young. He's almost your age, so he's still looking for a job. So I asked him, what's going on? When is your next interview? He said, actually, yesterday was my last interview, but I overslept. And to me, the idea of, this is your future and this is something that you will never miss. You'll stay awake to go for an interview because it's, this is something that you need to have. And he said, don't worry, there are more interviews that
Exactly.
will come on the way.
I
So I
agree.
think the relaxed culture that people have now, they're not worried because everything is available. We grew up studying in the tents where there's no air condition, no electricity, no tables, nothing. You're just on pebbles and in a tent. And then we saw the modern schools as well. But now we can compare and see, okay, where we were and what do we have now. So when my kids, for example, complain about the international school that they are studying in, I say, okay, no problem. Go to the public school, and you can compare the difference.
Yeah.
So maybe in that area there is a lot of room for improvement.
Definitely, but like I'll get back to 2 points which you said. One is that the lazy culture. I 100% agree. We procrastinate way too much. And my dad gets angry at me for that. He's like, "Oh, Bakar, you're procrastinating. What are you doing? You're free. You have nothing to do." Like I've taken a gap here, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's fine. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And that comes to the second point, which is that we're young, right? We unfortunately we believe that the West has kind of introduced that we're young, we have a long life. I'm only 18. I don't do it tomorrow. Don't worry. I have another 30, 40 years.
You might not live until tomorrow.
Exactly. And that's something, one beauty that I want to say the previous generations always have is that the previous generation always realizes that they're not young or that there's no such thing as XYZ number of days. They understand the concept a lot better that tomorrow could be my last.
Yeah.
Which is why I feel as if we need a collaboration between the two to really develop forward. Because look, no matter how much I say, I could die tomorrow, deep down I can't really believe it because I know I'm young, I'm healthy. Like I play sports, I do strength training. Like, how are you telling me that I'm gonna die tomorrow? This makes no sense, right?
Subhanallah.
And I'm like, it's just like because of that, we have that lazy mentality, like, okay, it's fine, I can relax, nothing's gonna happen.
Let me ask you a difficult question.
Oh,
Inshallah, once you get married and you're blessed with kids, are you going to raise them the same way you were raised?
ooh. Honestly speaking, yes and no. I can't say that 100% because there are obviously things I would have wanted to change, and there are obviously things I don't want to change. For example, my parents had strict rules
Yes.
that shaped into who I was. But my parents were very encouraging of activities, and I want to encourage more activities with that. For example, public speaking, debates, clubs, sports. Like I've been playing sports for a long part of my life. A large part I've not been good at. I'll grant you that. But like I got really good in the last few years of my teenage years. But like I was not very good at sports. I was not very good at speaking. Like I couldn't speak. I said I couldn't speak for a while. and now I'm here on the show doing a podcast with you. All right, it's like it's a dramatic change. I was debating in Muscat in front of what 500 plus students, and I won.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
And like I couldn't imagine myself doing that. So like to a certain point, I want to be strict, but I want to make sure that they have as many opportunities as they want. Because I one thing I remember, it's still sticking. My dad says, Abu Bakr, university, inshallah, will be managed, right? Inshallah, he'll help manage my university expenses, or somehow he'll manage, right? But he said, I can't pay for what you want, right? For example, if I want to say I wanted to study arts, I'm not going to get a job, right? If I study arts.
Yes.
If I study engineering, he's like, okay, there's a very high chance I can get a job. I feel as if that's something where I may make a distinction, and it's like, okay, what you want to study, I need to see proof that you're passionate for it, right? Like if you've been doing arts, I've seen you as a kid, you've done arts, you've been excelling at arts, painting. I might say, okay, I know you're good. I know you have the skill
Yes.
to be good at it. I have no problem. And that's something where I might differ. Another thing I might differ on is also just, I might actually just kind of do the same kind of method which my parents had. Like my parents had moved outside of Pakistan, right?
Yes.
And I feel as if because of there was some sort of barakah in that, because we're not always in view of the family, right? Because when you're next to the family knows, okay, they're doing this or doing this, or like he's doing better, or she's doing better, or she's doing worse, or like you don't have that much of a culture. Because let's be honest, I'm Pakistani. A lot of our culture is Hindu based,
Yes.
which is not real, which is very anti-Islam or not good. Having gone out and gone to Saudi Arabia, I've adopted a lot of the Arab well, personally, I've adopted a lot of Arab culture, and we are really understood, okay, this is not really in Islam, this is not allowed. And I feel as if given that opportunity, I would like to do the same, which is, okay, live somewhere where Islam predominates culture
Yes.
instead of culture predominating Islam.
So if you get the opportunity to go anywhere in the Muslim world to settle down with your family, what would be like the top three choices you have?
I always say Malaysia is my number one,
Yes.
because look, I'm a big foodie.
Okay.
I love food, right? Like
Yeah.
like I love food. Like I love trying food. I love eating food. Malaysia for me, best food. It's a Muslim country. Beautiful sceneries.
The weather.
The weather is fantastic. Greenery. It reminds me of home, Pakistan, without it being Pakistan. Because well, it's a sad reality, but Pakistan is a fantastic place, but economically it's not that good, right?
Yeah.
Like if I wanted to maintain the same standard of living I'm maintaining here in Pakistan, it's going to be almost impossible. That's a sad reality. Our inflation's gone up. Our government's very corrupt, unfortunately. And if it gets better, 100% I would want to go back to Pakistan. In fact, I would like to. My great grandparents, they have a house in the mountains. I think it's in 1918 built. I would want to move there, honestly. If I had the opportunity, I would buy. If I God gives the ability, I would buy that house and move there and just renovate and live there, because there's just something about the beauty of being peaceful with nature and just enjoying life there. Like you don't have to worry about, okay, this is a guy driving in front of my house. He's driven 3 times. Why is he driving 3 times? Please don't tell me he's gonna hit my gate. Don't block my door.
Safety. Safety
It's
is
safety
important.
too, but you have a natural sense of peace, right? Where do monks go to relax? They go in nature. People generally go to nature to relax or to think. When you're in nature, you have the natural sense of serenity,
Yes.
and I feel as if that would be the best place. So if I could, I would move there. But number one is Malaysia. It has that. It's probably it's on the same level of development as UAE, right?
Yes.
Dubai, Kuala Lumpur, Dubai, they're about the same.
Yes.
Like people always assume Dubai is the best Muslim place, but honestly, I would say Kuala Lumpur is the same. So Malaysia's number one.
So number two,
It's debatable. In my mind, I'm thinking Turkey,
Turkey.
because like fantastic food. You got fantastic weather. Like it's cold. No offense to the GC. I spent 18 years here. It's hot. It's hot. Like in Oman, there's a Western person I'll never forget. He said you have the good summer and you have the bad summer. It's just hot.
Oh,
I miss cold. I miss the cold weather. So Turkey has good weather, Muslim, but ever since secularism and stuff started, I'm like yes, no, yes, no, because look, you go to Istanbul, there's a lot of Western people dress up Western or do Western things. You go to other cities like
Borsa
Bordeaux and stuff, they're a lot
Adarna.
more practicing religion.
Yeah.
So that's the benefit. probably
Number 3.
it's a debate between Saudi and Oman, honestly, at this point.
What about Qatar?
I can't really say much about Qatar and Kuwait and stuff like that because I have no experience really.
Yeah.
Because I'm basing it off my experience of having gone there, right? Because look, Saudi, I will say, has better infrastructure, better healthcare, better education compared to Oman, right?
Yes.
But the peace you have in Oman is not there in Saudi.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what do I value now? The fact I can develop my kids or groom my kids to become leaders and forefronts or runners, like, they're like, okay, create them so that they can become some political figure. They could help save a country, or they could become
Yes.
a chairman of a company doing good, or give them a peaceful life and then be like, okay, well, now you're in university, you're gonna have to like, you have to somehow make a way out, right? So that's like the debate.
Yeah.
But it's between probably one of these two.
I would love to continue talking to you on this podcast, but we have the last few minutes on the show, and I would like you to give a piece of advice to the young people of the world, especially the Muslim youth who are in your age, and they're going to start their life now and develop themselves to become the next generation of Muslim leaders.
Honestly speaking, I'll give advice for, I would say, general Muslims and then male Muslims, right? So for the male Muslims particularly, I always say two things. Number one, be good influence, like lead, be leaders, because and understand why you want to be an influencer. Understand what are you trying to influence.
Yes.
I make a priority that I'm Pakistani, but I make an influence that okay, I don't want to be stereotyped as an average Pakistani. I don't wear traditional clothes. Okay, I apply perfumes like the Arabs. I don't speak like a traditional Pakistani. It's the speaking though is just because of my education, but like I make it an effort that I want to make an influence and set a standard, so people are like, he is just like me, but he's done X, Y, Z. So set an influence and set a standard, and just engross yourself in understanding or we call research, just in general, but ideally religion.
Yes.
Like I'm not saying that you have to be 100% dedicated to studying the Quran or that, right? Read the other books, of other scholars, right? For example, read the books written by Ibn Kathir, or I guess Ibn Arabi, or Imam Ibn Hanbal, or Imam Shafi. Like read their books, understand the religion, and then it'll naturally build up and understand what does it mean to be like a Muslim.
Yes.
And then in general, as a Muslim, just be confident in who you are, honestly. Because look, you have been blessed to be a Muslim, right? It's a big blessing in itself. Whether we acknowledge it now or take it for granted, being a Muslim is a big blessing. Be confident about it. And don't let that shake. Because once you acknowledge I'm a Muslim, you guys can do whatever. I'm still a Muslim. You can't do anything. Like, what more do you need? And just be steadfast. Be confident, be steadfast in good.
Brother Muhammad Abu Bakr Hameed, thank you very much for being with us on the show. I have to say that this was one of the best podcasts I had. A lot of fun, and I learned a lot from you. So inshallah, it is not the last time. Hope to see you soon, inshallah. And may Allah be with you, inshallah, in your next journey abroad. You're looking for your future, inshallah. Take care of yourself.
Okay, thank you.
See you
Jazakallah
soon,
khair.
inshallah. Dear brothers and sisters, you've been watching Dome Podcasts with me, your host, Hatim Abdissalaam. See you next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.